Welcome to this special edition of the Russia House. I'm sitting here in Moscow in the headquarters of Ritter. I'm here because of the work of the National Unity Club. They are my hosts here in Russia, and they are facilitating these very valuable conversations. And today I have an extremely valuable conversation. I'm going to be speaking with Mykola Azarov. He's not just the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, and I hope that at some point in time we will talk about Ukraine, but he's also the co-founder of the National Unity Club. And that's what I wanted to start with. Sir, could you tell an American audience what is the National Unity Club? Why was it brought together? What purpose does it serve?
I'm glad to greet you here, Mr. Ritter, here in Moscow. I want to wish you best days here to find out more about this country and get to know a lot of people. The Club of the Nations Unity is created because the world has quite a situation. All different calls for military conflicts are being made. The people forgot about the danger of nuclear war, and the main of this nation's unity is to organize a fight for peace. We cannot allow the humanity to go to the nuclear war because it's a catastrophe. And I was born after World War II. I know what it is, war. I know the circumstances after the war for the nations of the Soviet Union. I understand what happens, and I understand that next war for the whole world would be very dangerous, and this topic is very important for all the nations. And if today in this conversation we've taken this topic will have an answer or have a calling in the hearts of many Americans.
Now, when Americans hear National Unity Club, they think of an informal organization or an organization that works outside of the framework of government. But this National Unity Club actually has governmental involvement, meaning that when you meet and you discuss, it isn't just a discussion among academics. It's a discussion that actually resonates and has the potential to influence policy. This makes the National Unity Club extremely important. Am I correct in my assessment?
Not really. Because we're not a state organization, and we don't want people take us as a government state organization. We wanted to show a dream of all our nations to live in peace. You know, we really didn't have much opportunities to do that, many opportunities to do that. If you look at our history, it's a total war all throughout. But we want just a few generations would be surviving and living without military, without war. And not as much we hope for some states or government officials, but as much as we hope for the will of people, regular people, that the will of people will make their governments to build peace, have partnership. I am working many years in Ukraine, and I saw how our country was pushed for the huge conflict with Russia. Over 10 years I live outside of Ukraine, and I am watching of what is taking place there in Ukraine. I cannot be silent. It's a Western politics that are pushing Ukrainian people to war with Russia. And this problem is deeply in my heart. It disturbs me. It's not a problem of two nations, Ukraine and Russia. It's a problem of the world, because the conflict in Ukraine can possibly go to the world conflict. I can see that, I can feel it as a state worker. I understand that, and this is why we're here together discussing this topic and carry it to the hearts of people.
Well, again, I want to thank you for your work in creating the National Unity Club. Just real quick, is this a club that's only open to people from Russia, from the Russian circle. I'm an American. Can my fellow Americans join the club, work with the club? Can people from around the world come and work with this club?
Мы вас приглашаем.
We certainly invite you to join the club.
Не только вас,
Not just you,
единомышленников.
all the people that think just like you do, the same-minded people. You know, I remember in the 70s of the previous century when the movement for peace was for all nations, where top politicians, scientists were united, the representatives, the elite of the arts. I remember those movements, and I remember how this movement brought the state of the U.S. and USSR for such a political disarmament. Then the tendency, that's what we spoke about, for peace. And the falling apart of the Soviet Union has changed the tendency. It brought to the domination of one country, one state, and world politics became dependent mainly onto the politics of one country. And if that politics would be of the military complex, then it would lead to the military conflicts. This is why you fairly notice that we're open. We have no frames that are limiting us.
Well, thank you for that. I have a question now that deals with your resume. You were the Prime Minister of Ukraine from 2012 to 2014 under President Viktor Yanukovych. We tend to view, in the West at least, the conflict in Ukraine as beginning in 2014 with the Maidan. And we forget that there was a long history before that, a history of the West seeking to undermine Ukrainian sovereignty, use Ukraine as a tool against Russia. So my question to you is a hypothetical question. If there had been no Maidan and Prime Minister Azarov could have stayed in power past 2014, was this war inevitable? Would we have had this war no matter what? Or could President Yanukovych, Prime Minister Azarov, work to keep Ukraine out of a conflict from becoming a proxy of the West?
I speak one way only. If our government would continue to work, there would be no conflict between Russia and Ukraine ever. And now, let me speak in details. I want to say that American Special Forces and the embassy actively were getting inside into the internal business of Ukraine, and not just in the times of last Maidan, but practically from the moment, the day 90s, when Ukraine got the independency. You named the short period when I was a prime minister, just 2 years or whatsoever. But from 90s, I was a deputy, taking a minister position, vice premier. I took high positions in the government of Ukraine and in the state. And I know exactly what I'm talking about. We were facing in such a harsh economical crisis of 90s. With that, our politics, all the Western countries were influencing it. Of course, definitely, United States were the number one. In a country, we had American agency with the name USAID. Now, Mr. Trump liquidated that. I will say direct. This agency did not do any works or activities with the economical development of Ukraine. It declared it, but these were only words. What they did were creating funds, organizations that would lead anti-Russia propaganda, that led to propaganda against socialism. They were creating such levels of society that were targeted for a conflict situation. And the first Maidan took place not in 2014. The first attempt for the revolution was taken in 2000. 14 years prior to that, there was a movement that Ukraine without Kuchma. Kuchma was then a president, and quite a loyal person for the policy of the United States. He put a pro-Western person, Yushchenko, as the head of the government, and that was the end of 1999. And then they had an open attempts of nationalism, changing the historical memory, and in 2004, Americans, absolutely, it was Americans. They developed the first Maidan, and this Orange Revolution, as we call it, of 2004. It took place exactly after Serbian conflict, in Kyrgyzia conflict, in Georgia conflict. It wasn't really the first one in the post-Soviet territories, but it brought that the legally voted elected president was taken off the power with an illegal third tour. This pro-Western Mr. Yushchenko came. He to Nazist Stepan Bandera as a position of the hero of Ukraine, and it was open, rough propaganda of anti-Russian views. Due to economical failures, we were able to win the election in 2010 and get back to power. We canceled the order about giving a hero of Ukraine to Bandera, because he really directly worked with Hitler, and the movement that he was ahead of was given by the Volinsky fight. It's a Ukrainian and Polish tragedy, and the politics that took place after that coup, it was based only on animosity against Russia and Russian nation. We forbid Russian language. Just think about it. The country that has over half of its citizens that speak in Russian language, and even more, I think more, they couldn't speak Russian. Russian was forbidden. All political parties were forbidden that were supporting friendship with Russia. And I want to notice for Americans, especially if somebody would listen to me, that Ukrainian has over 50% of relatives living in Russia. 50% of the population of Ukraine have relatives in Russia. And Russia has huge number of relatives, Russian citizens that have relatives in Ukraine. We were so mixed, it's hard to separate two nations, ever. And during our government, a lot of people say, how come you were not fighting nationalism? Definitely we were fighting against it. But we were looking at the task of how to raise the economy of Ukraine. We had certain results. We increased the economical and trading connections with Russia. We had turnover in products of $50 billion. We were the biggest partner in trading partner in Russia, and a relationship of partnership and friendship. They were of a high importance for us. So that did not exclude our trading with America or European Union, but still, our major market, major resources were in Russia. So we have seen that this work of preparation of such ready for extremist, the divisions for extremist, for terroristic events that were special forces created, they brought to revolution. Let's just ask a simple question. What did Ukraine win from this? The nation of Ukraine cut down 2.5 times. We had over 45 million people there, citizens, now 20 million. Industry. Many times went down. Electricity, the industry in electricity, it cut down 5 times. Over 9 million of citizens there under poverty line. The demographics is very bad. 3 times people more die than they've been born. the Ukraine is at the stage of disappearance. So what I want to say is that definitely the responsibility of what took place is also on the shoulders of Ukrainian politicians, but more, I would put it on the West, on the special forces, the Obama-Biden policies that brought to creation of anti-Russian regime. They created anti-Russia, and they brought it to the military conflict. So when President Trump came to power, I took it with a certain hope that Trump would understand the main reason is a revolution, this anti-Russian policies that trying to create a defeat of Russia. If we will make changes in the political regime of Ukraine and brought to power that would be neutral to Russian Federation, but it's better of a regular work, of a regular partnership, then the roots of the conflict would be liquidated and the peace would be established.
But is neutrality really where Ukraine needs to be? And I ask that because neutrality implies that Ukraine can choose to economically align with the European Union or with Russia or with both. But if I go back to the Maidan in 2014, it was that very decision. Which direction should Ukraine go? To the European Union, to Russia? And in 2013, when Viktor Yanukovych said we will go to Russia, it created the unrest that the West took advantage of. Isn't the European Union part of the problem? Isn't this association with the West part of the problem? Shouldn't the solution to Ukraine be not a neutral Ukraine, but a pro-Russia Ukraine?
Scott, no, it's the wrong way how you phrase the question.
Okay.
Why wrong? Because partnership has to be equal. And if between us and the European Union there would be a treaty about partnership and association with the European Union, and it would look into the opening markets of Ukraine for European products and closing the markets of Ukraine for European Union, that's not equal. And we could not agree to it. For example, our major export product is agrarian, right? It's agricultural. European Union forbid to export our agricultural products, put quotas on. We were allowed only to deliver only 20,000 tons of grain, wheat to European, but we produced 30 million tons. We were allowed to supply to European Union 2,000 tons of meat, and we were producing 500,000 tons of meat. I can keep going. We produced a lot of industrial products, which on a technical standards did not fill in with the standards with the European Union, so therefore we could not deliver there on the market of the European Union. So UE was lying that we open up our borders, but you have to supply your products according to our standards, according to our regulation. I told them we have to redo whole economics, whole industry for that. We have to have credits for that. We have to have time for that. And we got answers. No credits. Just sign and that's it. If you don't sign, another prime minister would minister. Then the Barroso told it directly to a hero as when he was in power. At the same time, Russian markets, post-Soviet markets, they're natural markets to us. We had the same economy. We produced our economy under one standard. You know, Soviet Union had all one standardized standard, unified. We didn't have any quotas. You know, with Russia we had a free zone, free trading zone. We could deliver whatever we wanted, all products without quotas, without limitations. And ask a question. I am a prime minister. If we sign the contract with association with EU, with a free trade with the EU, then Russia closing their free zone. So we close the big market of Russia for us and not really open the EU market with the regulations. So, you understand? I would be a thief. I would be a betrayal of Ukraine, and we said no. Till we are going over the contract and change it some, we're not going to sign it. But that event was not a reason. It was it's for the special forces to use that event to move and situation. And at the meetings they put together, we refused from signing this agreement, which means that you will not receive European pensions, you will not get European salaries. And I was speaking, giving speeches, that even if we sign this treaty, we still not get those European pensions and salaries because we have to earn them. We have to have a production labor just like in Europe. Then we can cover up and raise to European level standard salaries. We have to work on economy. It'll take time. So all this was just a reason. But, you know, we had information about the revolution. We were getting that information. And our biggest mistake that we did not choke it when it was yet in a pre-form. We had to do it and not pay attention to all the American visitors. We had then preparation for Maidan. We had a lot of people from America coming, from Western countries. They didn't feel ashamed doing that, coming, giving instructions, giving, make sure, and mainly give money. Victoria Nunes said that for Maidan we gave $5 billion.
Fast forward to today. We have our leaders meeting in Alaska, speaking about the possibility of peace. That includes Ukraine. What does peace in Ukraine look like? President Putin has described certain prerequisites that need to be met in order for there to be peace. He says there can't be peace unless the root causes of the conflict have been resolved. Among these are demilitarization, to reduce the size of the Ukrainian military, to remove the NATO presence. Another one is denazification, to eliminate the ideology of radical Ukrainian nationalism, Stepan Bandera. But there's other problems as well. The war has destroyed Ukrainian industry, and what remains of Ukrainian industry has totally been redirected towards the West. If this peace comes with compromises that leave Ukraine the way it is, does that solve the problem? What needs to happen in Ukraine today so that it can exist in a state of peace with Russia?
First of all, the power has to change at all levels. The level of the president, parliament, government, the level of judicial system, military, police. The country has to go to the constitution and those democratic norms that they had before the revolution. There will be no peace until the country is led by bandits, corrupted bandits that are created by Zelensky and his power. In the nearest time, I think the world will see that it's a totally, fully corrupted regime that they don't feel anything for their nation, for anything for their country. This regime was created on purpose, artificially, by Western special forces and administration of Obama and Biden in their time to not definitely to develop Ukraine, but to fight Russia. Till we change the power, till we change the political regime, till we take away all the people from Nazism. That's number one. And from there,
вытекает и демилитаризация,
We have demilitarization
и экономическая
and economical reforms. You're 100% right. Economy of Ukraine is totally destroyed, you're right, and it's surviving because of the financial help from the West. I don't know if the foreign taxpayers, American taxpayers, do they know, or European taxpayers, that what are the money that have been taken from their pockets that are given to the sold-out Kiev regime? Over $350 billion. For this money, you could have built new Ukraine, modernize the industry, invest into the new technologies, and to do a lot of things. What was done? First of all, definitely most of the money has been stolen, and this money was used to destroy Ukraine. They killed a lot of citizens of Ukraine. And you ask me what to do next. If the regular, normal government would come in, they'll find a possibility to restore Ukraine. Ukraine has something that Ethiopia doesn't have. That's the soil. Fantastic soil. Wealthy soil. It's a great climate. Agriculture can be a source of development of Ukraine. Even not looking at the nation of Ukraine cutting down the 2.5 times, still there's a lot of talented people, educated people. They're able to restore Ukraine. We still have a lot of foundations from the Soviet Union, technical schools, scientific schools. It's a base for development, completely different technological level and stage. So Ukrainian people, they need peace and they need good policy, good power. It should be neutral as it comes out from the declaration about the state sovereignty, because Ukraine was created based on a declaration of the sovereignty, and one of the major points that was that Ukraine is not a bloc, but democratic social state. We need to get back to it, and peaceful Ukraine will develop.
When we speak of political change, though, where is it going to come from? Zelensky is a product of the West. He is corrupt as the day is long. I don't mean to be insulting, but the truth is the truth. The West speaks of replacing Zelensky, but they name Zaluzhny, a former general who is as corrupt as Zelensky is. Who in Ukraine today can lead? They're all the same people. You were not just a former prime minister, but you know the Ukrainian system better than anybody else. You know the complexities of Ukraine. You know the reality of Ukraine. And most importantly, you know what Ukraine needs to be and where it needs to go. Am I speaking to a future president of Ukraine?
Scott, let's drop this topic. We're not discuss it. Let's get back to the topic: how to provide the peace in Ukraine. And to provide the peace in Ukraine, only two leaders can: President of the United States, President Trump, and President Putin, President of Russia. Both Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump are interested in a peaceful, I feel it, I am sure about that, and they have to find that language, that discussion. I do believe that this first meeting, it wouldn't be a breakthrough meeting, but definitely would be a first step towards the right direction. And a direction must be one. Together in agreement, change the power in Ukraine, establish normal political regime that would be loyal to Russia and to America. And it would be to Russia and to America. Ukrainian nation will say thank you, because they have freed them from this Nazis regime. I think that President Trump needs to comprehend it, that he's got a great responsibility on his shoulders. He definitely will have a lot of circumstances on his way. Merz, Starnes, Macrons, they will be against, because they anti-Trump team. These people I called you, these are the product of the epoch from Obama and Biden policies. These liberalism movement of those principles that American state was pulling even before Obama.
власти Трампа
So when Trump comes to power, it gave great hope that there could be peace not only in Ukraine, but in the whole world. I really do want to desire to believe that I will help at the maximum level. Whatever depends on me, I will help. And you don't need to break your head who would be the president.
важно, что этим
What's important is that president should not be a Nazi.
вот что важно.
That's the point. That's what's important. That this position will be taken by the patriot of Ukraine.
Вот Украина будет,
And Ukrainian patriot would think how not to kill the country.
а как наоборот вернуть его.
But instead, how to bring it back, how to give it a development, and how to give that peace. And that's not the territory.
Вот я сейчас
Now we are
простой вопрос.
asking just a simple question.
Воюет украинский солдат сейчас.
What does Ukrainian soldier fighting for? What are they fighting for? For Zelensky regime? The country is in debt. The country is destroyed. There's no perspectives of development. What are you fighting for?
That's a question only the Ukrainian soldier can answer. Hopefully, someday he'll be given a chance to answer that question. Hopefully the war will end. Hopefully the peace will break out. But let's say, hypothetically, that President Trump and President Putin reach an agreement and we have peace. For your side, you're ready. You're prepared. You have the National Unity Club. You have discussed this issue. You have people ready to help. In America, we're not ready for peace. First of all, our allies in Europe don't want peace. They continue to want to support the nationalists in Ukraine. That's a big problem for President Trump. But the biggest problem is the ignorance of the American people about this situation in Ukraine. For some reason, we don't care about the Ukrainian soldier whom we give weapons to and we pay and such. We're willing to let Ukraine fight to the last Ukrainian, to let every Ukrainian soldier die, because we don't understand the truth about this. So now we come full circle, back to the National Unity Club. You have a very important job ahead of you. It's not just about working within Russia. When I asked about bringing in outside people, it's not a request, it's a demand. You have to bring in Americans. You have to work to bring Americans in so that we understand the realities of these problems, the complexities of these problems, so that we can work together in concert with you, you helping your president, we helping our president, to make this dream of peace a reality. So that's my request to you. No, my demand of you. Please open up the work of the National Unity Club so that Americans can be informed. Knowledge is power, and America today is ignorant. Help empower us with knowledge about the reality of Ukraine and the necessity of peace. I plead to you.
I 100% agree with you. We are weakly promoting. We don't have many opportunities to move the truth, to push the truth that's taken place in Ukraine. Tens of thousands of political prisoners there killed. The Christian confession of Ukrainian Orthodox Church is just being destroyed totally. They take priests to the army. Other priests are taken to jail. There is no freedom of speech at all. All opposition journals, magazines, political parties, they're closed. Nobody knows about that. All my attempts to publish something in a Western mass media, they just total forbiddance. It's totally blocked. Everything, the same happens in America. I always thought that America is a great country. It's a huge country with great possibilities. And you know, I'm not naive that I'm speaking about that Trump and Putin can establish peace in Ukraine. I know the possibilities of America. They're big. And President Trump, I can not choose another word, but make all the European servants of America will follow Trump's policies. If he puts together all his strength and have that policy, he really needs help and not put obstacles on his way. And the unity of two leaders like Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump would allow even actually wake Europe up. You know,
Хорошо стоят дела.
Europe is not so good as we think, or as we're told it is. And demilitarization of Europe, it would not bring anything good.
Отвечая на ваши
Look,
вопросы, я с вами
answering your question, I 100% agree. We have to have a wide scope of explanations to give to Americans, also in Russia, but not just in Russia, but step by step. I'm sure that the mood of the Ukrainian people would also change and swing too, for sure, because always Ukrainian people and Russian people, they were friends, brothers, they were always living together. Let me emphasize that hundreds of years.
пройдем через этот
But let's so pass this stage of being enemies that was planted on purpose. This is not a true Ukrainian quality. This is what was sown into their mentality and hearts. And let's get back to normal development. We really are hoping for positive results between Russia and U.S. in this direction.
можете задать справедливый вопрос.
You can ask me a fair question. Well, how come Ukrainians on their own cannot bring the order in their country? And I answer you that.
Тот режим,
In the regime that they have now, it reminds of a Hitler's regime. Think about it. During Hitler's times, any political power would fight against Hitler. There was none.
наверное, нет.
Not, probably not.
Примерно то же самое
The
сейчас
same
в
thing
Украине.
is taking place in Ukraine right now.
Когда все абсолютно
When everybody, totally, all opposition politicians either killed, murdered, or outside of the country or in jail.
This is a very difficult question, a very difficult problem, but it's important work, and this work must be done. What we've done here today is begin this work. This conversation we have is being seen by Americans. Hopefully it'll prompt Americans to think. But we can't stop here. We must continue our work. I want to thank you for coming on today, having this conversation, and beginning this important work. We're on a journey to peace. Today we're taking the first step. Let's continue this journey together. Former Prime Minister Azarov, thank you very much.
Спасибо.
I'd like to offer as just a token of my appreciation a book. It's a book about the danger of nuclear war. You spoke about this at the beginning of our conversation, but it's also a book about the absolute importance of our countries working together to prevent nuclear war. It's about peace. So it's my gift to you.
Спасибо. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. I want to give you my book also, How Ukraine Was Developed and How Revolution Took Place.
Thank you very much. I will encourage every American to read this book so they better understand the reality of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Thank you.